And right now, we are 2 minutes away from the end of the trading day. Romaine Bostick alongside Alix Steel. We're counting you down to the closing bell. Here to help take us beyond the bell. It's a global simulcast. Scarlet Fu joining us in the television studio. Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio as we welcome all of our audiences across all of our Bloomberg platforms. A Wednesday afternoon here in New York City, Carol Massar, It looks like the S&P is going to close at another record high.
Yeah, that would make it, I think, the 21st record that we've seen here in 2024. So we're watching it. The last one was 52.41.53. So we're definitely above it. I think what's interesting, guys, last couple of days, I feel like we've seen some selling into the close. Today, we're certainly seeing some buying into the close in the last half an hour or so. So a little bit of a different trend here.
I'm wondering how people are reading into this buying that we're seeing late into the session. Is it about end of quarter, quote unquote, rebalancing, Scarlett? Is it about making sure that allocations in certain companies and certain sectors are within lines of certain mutual funds?
It could certainly be that way. If you look at the performances of the different sectors, the biggest gainers are the ones that have been the worst performers year to date. So that might be a little bit of a contrarian take. What's interesting here, Alex, is that it's not just the U.S. stock market that's been making highs. Japan, Canada, and Germany also record highs in the past week.
Germany, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Considering the growth,
thanks to
really
Cameron Kreis.
Okay. Yeah, growth has been terrible, and the outlook has not been great for Germany as well. The Nikkei is interesting, though, because of that weaker yen. Honestly, guys, it's really hard to make a lot about the buying into the end of the quarter, to be honest. Like, let's wait till Monday.
Yeah, I was really trying to look at technical levels because, I mean, the fundamentals don't really seem to tell the story. And at least on the technical side, I mean, there does seem to be that argument that there is still a lot more upside there, particularly when you look at how muted volatility has gotten over the last few months. All right, let's walk you through the numbers here in New York. It does look like the S&P 500 is going to hold on here at another record high. It takes a while for these numbers to settle, but right now we're right around 52.49, up 45 points or about 0.9%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is going to move higher on the day by about 478 points or 1.2%, while the NASDAQ Composite, which was trading at a record high a little bit earlier in the day, looks like it's not going to hit that, up about 0.5% here on the day, and a phenomenal day for the small and mid caps. The S&P 400 mid cap up 1.6%, the Russell 2000 up 2.2.
Yeah, and for the most part, it looks like investors kind of all in the risk trade on this Wednesday. What's interesting, we're going to get into the industry group performance in just a moment, but just look at the S&P 500. Most names, folks, 456 to be exact, gaining in the session, 47, Scarlett, to the downside.
Yeah, look at the IMAP here for the sector breakdown, and a lot of green there. There are some spots of red, but that's mainly because you've got tech and communication services barely higher, up only 0.1%. They're the laggards there. So when you do see some red, it pops up pretty prominently because they're such heavily weighted sectors. But in terms of leading advancers, utilities, REITs, and industrials, with utilities and REITs each up by at least 2.4%.
All right, guys, to the individual gainers we go. This one was the number 3 gainer in the S&P 500, number 1 gainer in the NASDAQ 100. We're talking about Cintas Corporation, finishing the day with a gain of about 8.25%. It's a worker uniform company and business service provider, boosted its EPS guidance for the full year. It also saw an earnings and revenue beat for the third quarter, so investors liking what they heard from that company. Marvell Technology, number 2 gainer in the NASDAQ 100, and that one on the day with a gain of about just shy of 6% after Citi opened a 30-day upside catalyst watch on the chip maker ahead of the company's AI era investor event next week. So some excitement around that name, obviously a player there in the chip space. Did want to mention Robinhood just because I can. Finishing definitely off its best levels of the day at its highs, up more than 6%, finishing the day with a 3.7% gain. Known for its commission-free trading. While it rallied after the company said it's rolling out a credit card to U.S. consumers as it pushes beyond trading, rallying to its highest in about 3 years. And just because you guys would expect me to, I'm just going to throw one more in. DJT, Trump Media and Technology, another gain in its second day of trading in its newly formed entity, if you will, up 14% after a 16% gain yesterday.
All right, you got the gainers, Carol. I got the decliners. I do want to start with NVIDIA, the biggest drag on the S&P 500 today, finishing down 2.5%. Worth keeping an eye on. No fundamental news. Still up more than 80% so far this year, and just shy of about 5% off its all-time highs. Also, DraftKings finishing the day down by close to 7%. This after NCAA President Charlie Baker announced that he's pushing to ban college prop betting. It's a type of side wager that allows gamblers to bet on an event or a statistical outcome outcome that's not directly tied to a final result of the game. We saw a lot of these happen during the Super Bowl with the whole, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift thing.
Yeah. Will Taylor Swift cry?
Is that right?
Will she do something? Yeah.
Yeah, so NCAA president does not want those in college, which I think some people would argue makes sense. So DraftKings shares moving lower there. GameStop. Let's talk GameStop real quick. We talked about this after the market closed yesterday when the company did come out with results. Shares falling today by 15%. Intraday fell as much as 17%. It was the biggest intraday decline since June of last year. The company came out with fourth quarter revenues and adjusted EPS that missed the average analyst estimates. An honorable mention to Reddit today. They're having their worst day since going public last week. Hedgeye Risk Management came out and said that it's adding to it as a short idea, saying that it should trade about 50% below its current levels. Shares falling today by about 11%.
All right, just a quick check in here on the bond market, buying across the board. You had a 7-year earlier today, and it was a pretty solid 7-year. But overall, you guys, just pointing out, this quarter's been something for the bond market, like 30 basis point increase for the 2, for the 10. Definitely not what we maybe would have been expecting, say, as we entered the quarter.
Yeah, absolutely here. And I just want to point out, too, just on the bond front, we did have a redhead crossing the terminal. There was a lot of speculation about South Korea and India being added to those FTSE indexes. They're not going to do that. They remain on that global watch list where they've been for quite some time. The next review coming up in September, I believe, here. Anyway, Carol Massar, you've been taking a look at some of the big drug stocks and some big moves there, right?
Well, watching Novo Nordisk, its ADRs, they're actually down about 1% today. Interesting story that was on the Bloomberg terminal about how basically its Ozempic drug could be produced for maybe pennies in terms of each usage, if you will, for about $5 a month. Well, we're talking about
comparatively, I guess.
Well, they said Novo's popular drug could be manufactured for 89 cents to $4.73 for a month's supply. This is in JAMA Network, a study, a bunch of researchers coming out with this, and they said it could be done profitably. We know it costs almost $1,000 a month for that weekly injection of Ozempic. So it's just kind of interesting, and it kind of brings up once again, the debate over the costs of drugs, where drug companies say, hey, we do a lot of R&D, and this is why we have to kind of factor this into our pricing.
We did have some lawmakers weighing in, none other than Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, who has a history of talking about high drug prices, holding hearings in the past about high drug prices. He says this outrageously high price has the potential to bankrupt Medicare, the American people, and our entire healthcare system. He called on Novo Nordisk to lower the list price of Ozempic to $155 a month or less than that, which actually is what it charges in a lot of other countries. But, this is the way the drug system works.
So was there anything in that reporting of what their current cost is to make those drugs?
Well, they did not. They did not provide production costs.
I don't think they break it out.
I don't think they did.
So this is from a study by Yale, King's College Hospital, Doctors Without Borders.
I'm just curious.
That appeared to the JAMA Network.
It actually says drug production costs are often shrouded in secrecy.
Yeah.
So they do that on purpose. So I don't want to
For
say
this
that.
exact reason.
I
For
don't
this
wanna say
exact
that.
reason.
A lot
But
of things can go into that R&D budget, right?
Exactly.
And it's the R&D budget
Exactly.
that they have to, of course, cover through the cost of the drug that they sell. So it's a big black box.
Yeah.
All right, we are getting some earnings out. RH, the furniture company, are reporting earnings right now. It looks like on the bottom line, a pretty significant miss. Adjusted EPS coming in at 72 cents a share. The consensus on the street was for $1.69, so about less than half of what the street was looking for here. I have to dig a little bit deeper into these numbers to get you some sales figures and such here, but the initial knee-jerk reaction, the share's down 8% in after-hours trading.
Yeah, that's a big hit to the down. All right, that certainly is a big hit to the share price. I'm just looking at what it's been doing here in 2024, and the stock is just up about 2% here for 2024, and we've got about a 12% short position, on the outstanding shares. So that's a big hit, down 7.5% here.
The bar was pretty low headed into these results for RH. They were not high, and a lot of analysts say they were looking for challenges in the near term. There's going to really be the focus will be on sales and growth accelerating into 2025. But for 2024, a lot of weak near-term demand as the company focuses on long-term growth initiatives.
Yeah.
There's a letter to shareholders from the chairman and CEO, which is known for being candid, writing that aggressively investing during a downturn has put pressure on short-term results. It also positions us to capitalize on the long-term opportunities that present themselves during times of disruption, calling out the share repurchasing during fiscal 22 and 23, that represented approximately 35% of shares outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah, before we go, I just want to mention Discover Financial, the CEO stepping down. Of course, Discover going to be combining with Capital One, and now learning that Michael Rhodes, the CEO, has tendered his resignation. That has been accepted. Discover saying that they did not actually expect Rhodes to have any sort of long-term role in the company after the deal. So it looks like he's moving on for another position somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stock in the after hours, not seeing really any movement, but not a surprise. But nonetheless, good to squeeze that headline in. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Our cross-platform coverage, radio, TV, YouTube, Bloomberg Originals. We will see you again for Beyond the Bell, same time, same place tomorrow.